use what I call a hand target. It's very natural, very easy for them to do because they're kind of just drawn to our hands. So what I did is I called her around, but here is what I want to demonstrate. I want her to be able to stand quietly with me with her head to herself. So it doesn't have to be, it's still new in building duration. So in the very beginning, if it's a horse who's really pushy, I'm going to want them to have their head completely out of the way. But at this point in time, what I want her to do is to be able to stand quietly and relaxed with me for a little bit longer period of time, keeping her head to herself, keeping her head essentially straight is what I'm looking for, so that we can stand for periods of time. So she is still a work in progress. I mean, with Minty, I could stand for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and we could go for a long time. But she is still learning about the duration in her newer environment. And again, I continue to feed her where I want her head to be. So I deliver the food over where I want her head to be. If I continue to feed, and I like that her head's down, that looks kind of relaxed, she's just peering around at her environment. So at this point, I'm really trying to build a good, strong reinforcement history with standing quietly beside me. You can see she added in a little extra movement. That's not the worst thing in the world, but I'm looking for her to be, this would be an earlier stage of the training. So this is her just trying to figure out how to get me to do something. So what do? Basically nothing. If I feel like she's going to, if I feel like she is going to go for the food bucket, then this is her spin. So that's a newer behavior. If I feel like she's going for the food bucket, I just simply kind of drag my arm up over it so I can minimize her activity with it, or her chances of getting into it, so she doesn't reinforce herself. So now that she's come back around and went back to trying to keep her head to herself, I want to say yes, that's what I want to see. That's what I want as the default position, is keep your head to yourself. So she came back around and went back to trying the better behavior. I went ahead and reinforced it. So that is kind of a normal thing you're going to see as you start to build duration, is they may try other behaviors. It's okay. It's part of it. I want to minimize frustration and help her find the right answer, but I also need to let her think about it just a little bit and slowly build up that duration little bits by little bits. There's a real common thing for people to think it should go in big, giant increments. It's going to go in little teeny tiny increments. And I think it's really important that we remember and keep in mind that duration becomes a bit, can we go this way a little bit? Duration becomes something that so I'm going to shift positions and look for her to adjust with me. Excellent. So duration is something that they do learn as a concept. When they start learning that behaviors are going to turn into a longer help behavior and that they're waiting for the click, they get better at it, and it's easier to build duration on behaviors. But this is one of her earlier ones, so she has to figure it out a little bit. Okay, so she's doing great with that piece, and a lot of times I will start my behavior and end my behavior, or start my training session and end my training session with some of these pieces, particularly starting it and then building up, doing it intermittently in between. So it's really important that this behavior, which I call the default behavior, be really, really strong for her. And when in doubt, if she doesn't know what to do or gets lost, she goes back to a behavior that I've hopefully built more relaxation and quietness into, so we can help with those transitions between excited and quieter. Okay, another thing we really are going to work on is that liberty leading. Now, liberty leading, essentially in the very beginning, it is simply take one step, turn your head away. It is a kind of the next step towards building a little bit of their duration. I want to be able to change positions, change locations, and have her go back to doing the just keeping her head to herself. So I don't start with just walking right away. I simply take a step and say stop and turn your head away. And you can see she rocked onto that inside foot. I don't mind that with her because she doesn't tend to lean into me. But some horses, I'm really going to put a lot of emphasis on standing on that outside foot. If I continue to click her for leaning on that inside foot, I'm going to get more leaning on the inside foot. So I'm going to balance it out. Now, this is the baby in her saying this is kind of boring. And this is, so I'm going to line her up again. Can you come around here with me? So she's saying, this is boring. This is, I would rather do something. So what I'm going to do, So building the duration, I like that she rocked to that outside foot, so that's where I clicked, always clicking on what I want to see more of. So now that she's doing well, we're building duration, a little bit more stillness. What I'm going to do is take it into actually walking with her so that she has a chance to put some of that energy in some place that is constructive, because she is going to find it, as a young horse or a busier horse, going to find it more reinforcing to walk. So I add the walking in there. I'm still clicking when she is walking quietly with her head to herself. And so I can walk bigger. Come over here. I still want her to be on this side, so I can use my hand target to help her out. Good girl. And go this way. Good. And slow. Good. And I clicked on that because it's harder for her to slow down than to go. So I'm going to click on the downward transition, the slowing, the settling. And then I can reinforce it instead of with more food necessarily. I can also use the activity itself as simply being a reinforcer. And then I'm going to slow down again, come over this way. So it's a left hand turn, going to slow down, and then I'm going to ask her to take, good girl, a right hand turn. Good. And what I clicked on is when I saw her foot move over, providing us space to move over. But she had to, if you watch closely, you could see she had to slow down and prepare for that motion. So it is another way that I can create downward transition, a little quieting. And also, all she has to watch are my feet. But that means she's learning to focus and pay attention to me and what I'm doing. So let's go do this again. Let's go this way. Good girl. And you'll notice I do talk to her a bit. It's a way that I can communicate that she's doing a great job. Good girl. And this way. So as she may not be sure, it's a way that I can encourage her. Good girl. Now we're going to go this way. Good. And you can see as we slow down, she starts to anticipate that we're going that way. It's a great way to stop that cutting you off that horses tend to do. Good. And I really build a strong reinforcement history with it. All right, little miss, let's go this way. Come over here. Right over here with me. Good. Up here, little precious. All right. And trot. Good girl. Now, I wouldn't break into a trot until I knew I had a good, strong downward transition, particularly with a baby. Because if the babies can light up and just think, play, 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 it's something that she's not as prone to doing. She would watch me just trot off at first. So I like it when she first trots off, and if I say trot, good. I liked right there. I like that transition for her because I wanted to tell her, yes, that's a piece that's really important to me and I want you to match my steps. So that was very good.